Greetings, beautiful viewers. This is Smitten. Welcome to How to Fail at Smite, my original Smite series where I pick up a new god for the first time and poke fun at how I play so that both of us can learn from my mistakes. Episode 10, Ne Zha! The third Lotus Prince Ne Zha has finally been released, and since it is incredibly difficult to get a new god on patch day, I've recruited some viewers and entered the new 5-man pre-made conquest queue. Before we view the juicy fails, we'll briefly describe his abilities, but stay tuned as I will more thoroughly explain them later on. His passive Child of the Lotus benefits him in life and death. While alive, if you chain 3 of his basic attacks, the 4th one becomes an AoE and damages all enemies in front of him. On death, your corpse breathes life into all nearby allies, healing them for 60% of your maximum health over 6 seconds and increasing their protections by 30. The number 1 ability is Universal Ring Toss. This is a projectile that ricochets off of 5 to 9 targets, dealing physical damage and slowing them for 25% for 1 second. For every hit, it gives the enemy a physical protection debuff of 10 for 3 seconds and applies a 4% movement speed buff to Ne Zha for 2 seconds. Flaming Spears is number 2. This steroid increases attack speed and critical strike chance by 15% for 6 seconds. Ne Zha's number 3 is Artillery Sash. This is the reverse of Arachne's ultimate and essentially stuns your target, pulls you towards them, and deals physical damage to all enemies in the area upon arrival. Finally, his ultimate, Wind Fire Wheels. In true Street Fighter style, Ne Zha dashes forward and tosses the enemy god skyward for 4 seconds. During this time, you have 3 chances to score a crit. Upon landing, you deal a round of AoE damage to all enemies in 20 feet. After you land, you leap back towards your initiating position. Ne Zha isn't the only thing you'll be getting a look at today. You'll also get to see the new Cacodemon Ymir skin, as by chance I'm landing with Ymir. Equipped with this fierce new skin and an unpredictable little boy, we've managed to take control of right lane and drive our opposing Hercules and Ymir back under their tower. That is until I get a little eager and rush forward, getting hit with Frost Breath, Driving Strike, and Glacial Strike all at the same time, taking a bit too much damage for my tastes. We haven't harassed them enough to make them back though, so leaving the lane to farm buffs isn't really an option, and I know I have to be cautious next to their tower with this pair, as a well-timed Earthbreaker followed by a Frost Breath will immediately burn me down. As we strike down the last of their mini wave, Herc and Regimir don't like us being in their neighborhood, and start formulating plots of stepping forward to reclaim ground. If the tower gets a last hit on those minions, they will get way less gold than normal, so staying under a tower with 2 people will really cripple your early farm. So this wall attempt on Regimir was a good play on his part to make sure we're pushed back enough to let them clean up the minions. Not wanting to keep my focus, I pull back and stare at the new Cacodemon skin before regaining my train of thought and pushing forward. As I get too close to the minions, the Ymirs trade carpets, and I gather thoughts on actually using universal rings before apparently deciding an action is better than some action. With all my pacing, Herc steps up and tries to land his Earthbreaker, but I just so happen to not have instinctively backed away from him, and the only result is some damage. As their fresh minion wave joins the fight, I finally decide to make use of my Universal Ring Toss, when it will bounce off mostly minions rather than both gods. To follow that up, I lead the charge, pretending to be an initiator before Regimir reminds me that that isn't the case. In my panic, I foolishly run towards the minions before circling back down the lane and through a double hit of Herc's boulder rather than down the jungle. After that narrow escape, I survive with only 60 hit points before deciding to stick it out a little too long before Ymir tells me to retreat. I agree, and pulling from my experience of videos past, I back right where it's safest and stubbornly refuse to cancel the process even as Herc bore down on me. Chapter 1. Poor Timing. In one of my moments of actually learning, when returning to the lane after being resurrected, I see that Ymir is holding the minions away from the tower and right. While mid and left lane are both secure, I use this time to my advantage by clearing some buff camps to catch up in farming and give me an advantage in the next engagement. If you have a lane push like we did, only with enough harassment on the enemies to make one of them back, that's also a good time to leave the lane to either collect buff camps or gank. This will really help you gain a significant lead. In this camp, I pop my Flaming Spear before aggroing the mobs, wasting a second or two of the steroid. Don't do this when you're jungling, you'll maximize your effectiveness and clear it much faster. With both camps cleared, I return to the lane. If you start falling behind, especially as a carry, it's up to you to get back in the game as quickly as possible. And here we go again. I didn't capitalize on my buffs and probably should have went to gank middle, but now we find ourselves back in the same position as earlier. Regimir and Hercules are proving to be an impenetrable fortress under their tower, but we've managed to get some decent harassment on them, but we're unable to do anything with it other than force a potion. With their minions lined up and Ymir in range, I toss my Universal Ring at a point when I can't really benefit from the effects of it, and all it really does is ensure they'll move back to their tower more quickly so we can't try to secure a kill. I'm growing a little impatient at this point, as I'd love to see what Ne Zha is capable of and follow Regimir towards his tower. Thinking I've got the range for the bounces, I throw another ring, but Herc slips out of range and I sidestep Ymir's Frost Breath just in time. With all of his cooldowns wasted excluding his ultimate, Regimir is effectively taken out of the next fight if it occurs. And Hercules looks like he wants to make something happen. As our front line of minions die, exposing our archers, the pair step forward and my Ymir catches theirs in a Frost Breath, and I move in to get off a pretty solid ring toss and ready to deploy my Artillery Sash. I decide my target is Hercules and lock onto him with a sash, unexpectedly zipping forward. I fall prey to not doing my research before the match and die to an Excavate Driving Strike combo. Chapter 2. I can do something right. After yet another death, I at least get the respawn phase correct again and check the minimap. Seeing Hebo pushing middle lane with right secure and left too far back to challenge the tower, I move in for the defense. Odin has the same idea and approaches from behind Hebo while I foolishly charge right up the lane. However, once Odin has him trapped in the cage, I use Artillery Sash effectively to stun him and close the distance, and before he can really react, he's a dead bow. With that kill under my belt, I peel off to the right jungle while Odin pushes mid with Agni. Left lane is in some trouble, but right is secure and I decide my time is best spent collecting buffs to increase my farm. I go ahead and collect both buff camps again while Odin and Agni snag the middle tower, but we end up trading our left for it. While I am not sure that I could have made it in time or that I could have saved the tower, I think I could have though, and that would have been a much better use of my time than taking these buffs, as no one on their team seems to be active in counter jungling, so they would have been there when I got back. Chapter 3, Ultimate Fail. Back up the right lane again for another pointless dance competition with Hercules under the tower. I really should be using this time to go gank my opponents or try to pick up the attack buff, but instead I'm content to spend time with my murderer. Utilizing his driving strike, Herc persuades me to back off, even though if I'm going to be doing anything under the tower, it should be attacking it while letting Ymir tango with the competition. As Ymir trains up with Hercules, we start the inevitable withdrawal and they pursue us down the lane. I feel pretty fancy skating around on my Hot Wheels and think I'm safe from danger due to the mobility provided by the speed buff, but Regimir seems intent on showing me otherwise. But my Kago demon is up to the challenge and shuts him down before he can make anything happen. Even with Ice Carpet and Creeping Curse, Regimir is still as slow as a trailing Amish buggy, and my Kago demon ends his pursuit with a fleshy wall. The only problem with that is he ends up isolating himself and forgets that I'm the type to fill the role of an easily intimidated she-boy. All that passivity allows an injured Hercules to slip down the lane and out of my reach. Until I catch him in my ult. I can't land the crits, but I had soapboxed a recording of him showing you how it's done. Robot, it's showtime! In slow motion, you can see that you left-click just as the Lotus emblem says attack to score the real damaging hits. My mistake is clicking instantly when I get in the air, as things happen fast. Back down on Earth, I turned and ran rather than using my sash or universal ring toss to secure the kill. Either one would have been more than enough to finish off Hercules, but instead the carry left it to the tank to get the killing blow. Chapter 4, Over Pursuit and Squishy. Having helped Ymir get the kill in right lane, we both went back to base and I set out to middle lane to deal with Hebo. I arrived just in time to watch him bait the kitty to death and give chase. My ring toss doesn't come close to hitting anything and he flees from Agni and I managed to snag him with my sash, and instead of stepping out of his floodwaters, I swing deeper into them, needlessly slowing myself and giving him time to escape. I should have realized pursuing a Hebo with an attack buff and a level advantage isn't exactly a correct move. Neither is remaining in a fight with no help, but when do I ever let that kind of thing stop me? Chapter 5, Steal and Stolen. Back in the saddle again, it's time for revenge against the wrong target, of course. I take down on her with an amazing shot if I do say so myself, and it's time for us to get serious. We join together and quickly clear the miniwave before pushing on towards the tower in the opposing Ne Zha. Androgynous minds think alike, and we hurl universal rings at our respective mini-waves, and I get my first experience of what it's like to be on the receiving end. Not bad if it only hits you twice. Hebo appears at the tower ready to assist in the defense, just as Odin moves up unnoticed to the jungle. Ymir moves him behind the tower, and the opposing Ne Zha unfortunately misses with his artillery sash. If he would have connected on her and I would have ate the little guy for breakfast. At least I land my universal ring, which bounces off of both of them repeatedly as Odin and Ymir join the fray. My delay in casting my artillery sash means I'm unfortunately locked outside the cage. If I hadn't been so busy sliding around, I could have scored a double kill. Yeah, right. On her drops Ne Zha, and I give Hebo the pick-me-up he needed to get a new perspective on his life, and Ymir finishes him off as soon as I'm done fondling him. All my antics didn't manage to score me a kill, but they did manage to deplete my mana, and I'm eager to go get it back, even though we now have a shot at some free towers. My team reminds me of my duties, and I return post-haste. With all of us on it, it doesn't take much time at all before the tower collapses under the collective weight of our impressiveness. Hercules and Regimir are on the way over to prevent the loss of their second tower, and Regimir enters the lane a bit startled by what he's discovered. Did you know that a Ymir wall can block a Ymir frost breath? Well, apparently it can, as that appears to be what just happened. Incorrectly feeling deja vu right back, applying the wrong lesson to the wrong situation. Chapter 6, Buying Time. Herc and Ymir managed to hold their left tower due to my absence, I'm sure, so I intended to make up for it by taking their right one. But Ymir shoos me away as I don't think engaging him under the tower is the best of decisions. When he's alone, his abilities aren't going to do much damage to me, but that doesn't stop me from being a coward. I move up to poke him with my universal ring before using the speed buff it provides to clear the tower's range, just in case it bounces to him. He throws up a somehow intimidating wall, which somehow convinces me it's time to retreat. As our on her drops stairs, I recognize there's a team fight going on and toss out my words of encouragement before the idea dawns on me that I should be doing something about it. I slip into the jungle and happen upon Ymir making his way to his embattled comrades. We start trading hits with each other and Ymir walls off his path to his allies. This might seem crazy, but keeping a god like Ymir out of a team fight at the cost of a carry played by Smitten is actually a pretty good exchange. Regimir and I both seem a little surprised by my damage output, and he retreats while I head off to join the battle. He would be pretty secure under his tower, and my team had already lost Ymir and Agni, so I figured I'd be more beneficial to my team aiding them in securing the kills. I can see Ymir following on my minimap, and the three of us are more than a match for the Frost Giant, and if I came at him, he'd be nothing more than a snowman in the summertime. But it's probably better to retreat. Chapter 7. Don't blame your teammates. Hey, check it out! That retreat that shouldn't have happened seems to have paid off. Look at all those buffs! This team is gonna get destroyed! Oh, a Ymir wall? Well, okay, after that Selm, this team is done! Alright, here's my chance. Wait, Caco Demon, why aren't you in the front? Oh my god, water! It might put my wheels out! Retreat! The wall of seaweed from Caco Demon will give us just enough time to regroup and prepare the attack now that they're leaving their tower. Oh my honor and justice, a wall! Book it! Caco Demon, get up here! Take the front! Let's do this! Are we really running from this fight? They have a tanky Hercules and a Regimir. Can we please engage? We'd crush them under the weight of our mighty damage. Oh, Odin is going after a tower rather than being here to assist in a decisive team fight, and I really should be placing myself behind the Caco Demon rather than expecting him to get in front of me. But seeing as I don't, I pay for my mistakes in positioning without trading a shot. That's one way to deal with my passive. Chapter 8. Asking for it. We return to middle lane after I've resurrected and attained the red buff. Let's take another crack at that team fight. What do you say? Alright, now stop. It's ulti time. And with that, I pulled myself into a Ymir ult and then get taken out by Hebos. Soon after that, we throw up the white flag as we couldn't seem to synergize for the team fights. A good game to my allies and a good game and well played to my opponents. And now on to my favorite part of the show, the recap. To start off the recap, I'll go over my personal feelings on Ne Zha. He's the ultimate girl. You know, a guy in real life just plays a chick on the internet. But in all seriousness, he's an incredibly fun god to play, and I find it ironic that Ne Zha came out right after my Loki video. They both fill a very similar role and they're both very squishy. Ne Zha's passive is amazing in teamfights later on. It should give folks pause when it comes to focusing him if there are already other teammates low, as the heal and protections he provides on death are incredibly powerful while they last. His attack combo is impressive as well, not just because of the short range AoE on the 4th hit, but the 3rd and 4th strikes do more damage than the 1st and 2nd. His ultimate feels a bit underpowered on damage at first, but that's really only if you're not getting the crits and targeting the wrong person. He also has a really fun kit and a really strong jungling presence. His ability prioritization is pretty straightforward, and I'll go into it now. Universal Ring, his number 1 ability, is an absolute must. Level and max this first. The stacking protection debuff on enemies it hits can be devastating if you land it in the jungle or against a pair of enemies that are away from their minion pack. If you didn't catch it, each time the ring hits an enemy, it reduces their physical protection by 10, as well as slowing them by 25% and buffing your movements by 4% for 1 second each hit. That's 36% movement speed for 1 second, which will really help you get into the right position. Get good enough with this and you can save your stun in case they get away by leaping or blind luck. His Flaming Spear is next in the list of what to max. Throw a point in at level 2 and place points in when you don't have an ult or universal ring to level. Even at level 1, you can still get the full 15% critical strike chance. And max, this gives you a 55% attack speed steroid. This is really useful against gods and towers alike. If you get lucky enough to build full damage, you can roast a phoenix in seconds. His number 3 artillery sash is only really good for the stun and pull. The damage it does isn't anything to worry about, even with the 150% physical power contribution. Ne Zha is all about the basic attacks. Put a point into it level 3 and just hold off until the other 2 abilities are leveled. Lastly, you've got his ultimate Wind Fire Wheels. Master the crits or the damage this does is pretty unimpressive. It also requires some good positioning to make it truly effective. If you're ganking a lane while roaming, I like to initiate with this from behind, as my allies will be in front of them, and the launch back when you land afterwards will place you well behind them into their retreat path. Follow that up with Universal Ring for the slow and Flaming Spear, and they should be burnt down in seconds. If not, use your artillery sash to get the last few hits you need to secure the kill. In teamfight situations, you can either use this to secure the kill on a weakened opponent, or you can use it to pull an annoying tank or support class like Ymir, Aphrodite, or Hel out of the fight for a second while the initiation begins. Never forget that this can also be used as an escape in emergency situations, and there's room for a lot of creativity when using this. Just get used to the jump back that happens when you land, and adjust accordingly if you're using this to secure a kill. On to the item builds. There's not much need to try to counter Ne Zha's squishiness early, and trying to grab a sustained starting item isn't going to work very well as the ring isn't a lane clear, and that squishiness means you have to be careful when engaging a minion wave in the beginning of the game. Pass up on the starter item and go straight for the warrior tabby. Tier 1 is a good choice so you can get your active items like Aegis and Sprint as well as the potions before heading out. Once warrior's tabby is done, you have some choices. If you're comfortable on your wheels, don't worry about this yet, but if you're finding the squishiness too much of an issue, grab your lifesteal item. Devourer's Gloves is definitely preferred due to the 20% lifesteal and the physical power contribution, but if you find yourself having a really tough time surviving, go for Soul Eater. This won't out-damage Devourer's Gloves and there are better choices for attack speed, so only get this if you're really getting beat on. Lastly, if you're up against a composition with lots of healing and not part of a pre-made, or can't find out if any of your mages are going to pick up Divine Ruin, you can pick up Brawler's Beatstick to reduce their sustain effectiveness, but Divine Ruin on a mage is much more effective than Beatstick on you. After that's done, pick up Executioner for both the attack speed and penetration and your core build is complete. You can adjust the build though, as I said earlier. If you're comfortable with Ne Zha, you can pick this up before the lifesteal to get more instant burst damage, but if you're going Devourer's Gloves, that would be the better pick just so you can get the stacks earlier. Everything from here on out is situational. If you're ahead and surviving, grab Deathbringer for dat damage. If you're really getting beat on pretty bad, pick up Voidblade if your primary assailants are physical to get a little mitigation and keep up your damage, or Bulwark of Hope if they're magical, as the extra health and shield can really help you survive some sticky situations. More often than not, you'll find yourself needing more survivability, and these two items will most likely be necessary. After they're complete, go for the Deathbringer. If you've been effective and have a really huge lead and can build all damage to end the game quickly, skip the defensive items and go back to Deathbringer, followed up by an attack speed item like Kin's Blades if they've got high HP, or Rage for additional critical strike chance. If you go for Rage, you're looking at a 71% chance to crit without the passive. After that, you can either go for more crit in the form of Golden Bow, or more penetration in the form of Titan's Bane, Voidblade, or Jotun's Wrath. Cooldown reduction really isn't something you should build for though, as he is all about the basic attacks. His abilities are just there to get him into position to deliver those attacks. One item I see discussed that I don't think is a good choice is Hydra's Lament. The physical power is good, but he's not a burst damage god that relies on abilities, and the way he chains his abilities together doesn't lend itself to making efficient use of the passive. Maybe if you get really familiar with him, you may be able to make it work, but there are better choices in my opinion. Same goes for Frostbound Hammer. His Universal Ring already applies the slow, and his kit is made for preventing your prey from escaping. And so concludes the guide on Ne Zha. If we tickled your fancy, make sure to rate and subscribe for upcoming videos. You can also come hang out with us on Facebook and Twitter. Links in the description. Feel free to leave your suggestions on how to play this god, as well as any feedback you have for us in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. I'm Smitten, and I'll see you next time. On her drops Ne Zha. Stop saying Ne Zha.